Okay, so I decided to do something a little bit different. Instead of embroidering on an apron, I decided to do a variety of embroidery designs so you can see what you can do with the personal embroidery machine. Okay, so for starters, I do have my flash drive inserted, so it's inserted in the USB port, what we went over in the previous videos. And to locate the files, I'm just going to come a little bit closer so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to press that icon, and then it's going to retrieve the files. And for starters, if you see here, it says 23, so that's going to tell me that 23 embroidery designs is located on this USB flash drive. I'm going to press the arrow until I get to a design that I like, and that looks like one. And once I find one, I just click it or touch it, and then I'm going to press the upload, and then it's going to appear on the screen. This is telling me that it's going to take 15 minutes to embroider this design. Okay, so I already have my thread loaded, and I also have my bobbin loaded as well. Now it's time to put the fabric and the stabilizer onto the hoop. To embroider this diva design, I'm going to use a spray adhesive, the embroidery hoop, the fabric, and a stabilizer. This is a medium weight stabilizer, and I just serrated the edges. This is just a piece of scrap fabric. I just didn't want to get you confused because both of them are white, but this is fabric and this is stabilizer. And to apply the fabric to the stabilizer, the spray adhesive, you just spray it kind of lightly. You don't want to spray too much because you don't want it to bleed through the fabric. And then you just kind of spread it out like so. Make sure that there's no bubbles and wrinkles. And then with your embroidery hoop, you want to open it by simply twisting it. You can twist it a little bit closed, or you could, if you need a little bit more room, you twist it so it can open. And then this goes on the bottom, like so, and then the stabilizer and the fabric goes on top of it, and then you just place the top part of the embroidery hoop inside. Now, I'm not worried about it being straight or anything. I'm just showing you how it embroiders and how it looks when it is embroidering on the fabric. Then I'm going to flip over the stabilizer and the fabric, and I'm just going to tighten this embroidery hoop because I don't want it to pop up. Remember, it's two pieces put together, so if it's not tight, then it will pop up. So now this embroidery hoop is actually holding this fabric in place. Actually, I'm going to loosen it just a little bit because I see the fabric puckering. You don't want it to be too tight because you don't want it to pucker. So you want it nice and clean and flat inside of your embroidery hoop. I'll tighten it just a little bit. Now it's ready to be taken to the embroidery machine. So I just wanted to direct your attention on these two notches here because that is where the embroidery hoop is going to fit on. So I'm going to just pull this back so you can see it. I'm going to attach these two notches onto these two buttons. So to apply your embroidery hoop and your fabric to the embroidery machine, you want to slide the hoop and the fabric under here. Okay, so this is the embroidery foot. You want to slide the hoop and the fabric under here. Let's see. So if this was a tote bag or a onesie or a towel, a bath towel or something, this is how it would look so far. Then you want to pair up those two notches that I showed you onto the two buttons. You want to pull this back like so and then slide it on top. So I'm going to align it, and let me see if I can get a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So these two notches is going to be paired up with these two buttons. So I'm going to slide this back, pair them up, and then you'll hear like a little snap that it's on. Okay. Okay, so what do we have here so far? We have your garment or your fabric on the embroidery machine. The embroidery design is uploaded. We know it's going to take about 15 minutes to embroider. We have the thread loaded, we have the bobbin loaded, and we are pretty much ready to start embroidering this design. To begin embroidering, your embroidery foot, which is here, needs to be pressed down. And also, this light needs to be on green. So if it's on red, it's telling you that the embroidery machine, is not ready to be embroidered. To get it into gear so it is ready to embroider, direct your attention back here to this take-up lever. You're going to press that down, and when you press that down, the foot is going to go down and this light is going to turn green. And when you press it up, it's going to switch back to red and the foot is going to be lifted. So now what I'm going to do is just come a little bit closer so you can see what happens when I'm going to go behind here and press the take up lever down. So you notice that the foot went down and the light turned green, and now it's telling you that it's ready to embroider. So all you have to do is press the green button and the machine will get into position and it will start embroidering this diva design. So now the embroidery machine is on the last letter of the word diva. And while that embroidery design is finishing up, because you're getting two hoops, if you were embroidering two garments or two t-shirts, you would be able to prepare your next hoop and take that one off the embroidery machine and put this right back on. And this design is just about finished. So it is finished and it's telling you that it's a finished sewing. So you're just going to press OK. And now it's time to take it off of the embroidery machine. And to do that, what I'm going to do is simply pull this back and then slide both the embroidery machines up. But I'm holding the camera with my right hand. Let's see if I can do it. And I was able to get it off. So I just push this back and just kind of pull this off, and then I'm just going to lift that embroidery foot up by that take up lever so I can slide the embroidery hoop and the garment off of the embroidery machine. Okay, so if this was a t-shirt or a tote bag, this is what it will look like when it comes off of the machine. And if you look very closely, you can see that there are some threads that are attached. And remember those little scissors that you are getting? Now, these are embroidery scissors. These embroidery scissors have a very narrow point to it because it wants you to get in between those little threads and be able to get very closely to cut them. Okay, and they are very sharp, so that's why you don't want to use these scissors on paper or anything other than cutting or snipping these little threads here. So what you would do is you would go and you would snip all these little threads off, and then you would take it off of the embroidery hoop. And to do that, you would just simply pop it or loosen it up on the side here. Loosen that up, and this would open up a little bit more, and then you would be able to get it off. But I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting these little pieces of threads off, and then I'll show you how to take it off of the embroidery hoop. Okay, so to take this off of the embroidery hoop, remember this, let's just pretend that this is your tote or this is a t-shirt or something that you was embroidering. You would loosen the embroidery screw, and then this you would see slide down, and then the first part of your embroidery hoop would become loose, and you would just simply pop it up and take your garment off. Okay, so when it comes off the hoop, you may see like an indentation or a print. What you want to do is just take your iron and just kind of press that out, because you don't want this on, let's say, a t-shirt or a tote. And then you want to turn your garment or your item, and you want to trim around this cutaway stabilizer. So remember, this was a medium weight stabilizer, but this type is a cutaway, and to do that you just want to take your scissors and just trim around it like so. So if this was a t-shirt, you would just have your stabilizer on the embroidery part. And the stabilizer is exactly what the word is. It stabilizes the embroidery that you are putting onto the fabric. And you would remove the excess, and pretty much that's what would be in the inside of the garment or the inside of the tote. So once again, we are going to do a different kind of embroidery design. So I'm going to press the icon, and I'm going to go through my embroidery files until I find the design that I want. And I'm going to do this Hello Kitty one. So I'm going to upload it to the machine, and you will see that so far that it is in portions. The first one is going to be your trace outline, and it's telling you exactly where to put the fabric, because this is a different kind of embroidery design. This is called an applique, which is a patch. So if this was, let's say, a t-shirt for your daughter or for your niece, we would be embroidering a patch, a Hello Kitty patch, onto her t-shirt. So let's direct our attention here. I have already changed the embroidery thread because the outline of Hello Kitty is black. So I didn't want to embroider it in a turquoise like I had before. To do that, I'm going to once again put my embroidery machine into the position that it needs to embroider. I'm going to put that takedown lever down. The machine is ready to go because the light is green. And so it's going to stitch out the first part of this embroidery design. And if you notice, it is highlighted, so it's telling me that it's only stitching out this. Now, it's going to take 1 minute to stitch out the first part of this design. So you see, 1 out of 11 minutes. It's going to take 11 minutes in total, but overall it takes about 1 minute or less to stitch out this part of the design. And what is this part of the design? Let's take a look. Let's get the thread out the way. So far what we have is the shape of the Hello Kitty head. Okay, so for starters, I just want to show you exactly what's happening here. So the machine is telling you exactly where to put the fabric for the Hello Kitty patch. So the Hello Kitty patch is roughly going to be about 4 inches wide. I'm sorry, 4 inches high by about 4 to 5 inches wide. So I will cut a piece of scrap fabric by 5 inches wide by 5 inches long. So I'm using a piece of fleece, a piece of scrap fleece for the Hello Kitty face. And for the most part, this is about maybe 9.5 inches wide, and this is just way too big. So what I'm just going to do is just cut off a patch or a piece just to cover the face. I always like to cut it a little bit wider than the actual design. So this scrap piece of fabric, let's just get a little bit neater for you. But this piece, scrap piece of fabric is 6 inches by 6 inches. And then, okay, so now I'm going to lightly spray it, and then I'm going to apply the fabric with the spritz, the spray on top of the trace out design. So that means the part where the glue is going to go directly on top of the trace out. It's going to cover it entirely. Make sure that there aren't any air bubbles. And then you want to get your machine back into position, pressing your take lever down. And now, if we look over here, it's in the second part of the design. See the two? The second part of the design, and now this part is going to tack down the fabric. The machine is ready. So now that the fabric is tacked down, now we have to trim the fabric, because if this was a t-shirt or a tote bag, we wouldn't want this excess fabric on the Hello Kitty face. And the machine automatically goes to the next step. And if you look here, you'll see that it is automatically on step number 3 of this design, which is going to be the outline for the flower for this Hello Kitty face. So first, we have to take this off the machine, and we have to trim the excess fabric around the tack down line for the fabric. And to trim the excess off of this fabric, once again, you are getting these sharp, handy embroidery scissors. You just want to cut very closely next to that tack line. You don't want to cut the tack line, but you're going to trim the fabric all the way around. So this is what it looks like when all the excess fabric is cut off. If you notice, all the excess is cut off here, and I got it as close as I possibly can with the sharp embroidery scissors. Now you're ready to take it to the machine for the next step. Okay, so the third part of this machine is going to be the trace out line for the flower. So I'm just going to switch the machine over into the position where it is ready by simply pressing the takedown lever, and the button is green. I did also switch the thread color because I want the flower to be, let's say, an outline of pink, and I also switched the bobbin as well. So the machine embroidered of the outline of the flower, which is going to be where the flower on the Hello Kitty's face is going to be. And I have a little piece of fabric that I've already applied adhesive to on the back, the spray adhesive, and I'm just going to place it up. I need to lift up that take up lever, and I'm going to place it over the outline of the flower. And this is a piece of scrap fabric. Okay, so I went ahead and tacked down the fabric with the embroidery machine, and then I cut it out, you know, with the outline of it. Okay, so now it's ready to go on to the next step, which is going to be step number 4 on this process. Now we're up to number 5, and the machine is in position where it is ready to embroider. I'm just going to press the button, and I'm going to watch this design because it looks like the machine overall wants to do the outline in one color, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to allow it to embroider on the flower, and then I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to switch the color. it's embroidering the flower pink, but I want the outline of the Hello Kitty's face to be black. So when it's complete with embroidering the flower, I'm going to pause the machine and then switch the pink thread to a black, and I'm also going to change the bobbin as well. Okay, so I went ahead and embroidered the flower, and we are still on step number 5. I just paused the machine, changed the thread, and plus the bobbin, and now I'm ready for the embroidery machine to embroider the outline of the Hello Kitty's face. I'm just going to switch the takedown lever. The light is green. So the machine is embroidering the outline of the Hello Kitty face, and one of the things I want to point out is when you are purchasing new embroidery designs, whether you buy them offline or you buy a disc, wherever you buy them from, you always want to do a test stitch on scrap fabric or something, and the scrap fabric should be very similar to the fabric that you are going to use. So if you are going to embroider, let's say on a onesie is a stretchy knit. You want to test your embroidery design on a t-shirt, because every embroidery designer, just like every hairstylist, is not the same. Their work is not the same. The quality of the work is not the same. So before you go ahead and embroider on the garment, especially if someone is giving you something to embroider, or if it's going to be a gift like a baby's blanket, you don't want to mess it up, and you want to know ahead of time what you need to do. Like, for example, I've already embroidered this design, so I knew that I had to pause it. And if you look closely, you may see some white inconsistencies, which also indicates that I also may have to do a double stitch. So I may have to embroider the outline of this Hello Kitty face again. Now, that's not going to be the case with every designer, but maybe this designer was a beginner, maybe, we don't know. We don't know, whatever it is. I didn't design this, so overall, I have embroidered this before, so I know this design. And you might want to keep a little journal too, just so you can remember, you know, the odds and ends on your embroidery designs. So now it's going to the face. Okay, so on step number 5, it did the outline of the flower and the outline of the face, but I had to pause it because I wanted the flower to be different from the outline of the face. And once again, that's why you always want to test stitch your embroidery designs, because every designer does embroidery file designing differently. So now it is up to step number 6. As we can see, and step number 6, even though you could barely tell, but step number 6 is really going to be filling in the nose. And what I recommend is when you're doing an embroidery design, especially a file that's a cartoon character or something, you want to kind of get it as close as possible to what it looks like. And by the way, these designs are copywritten, so you can't sell these designs, or you really shouldn't sell these designs. But for the most part, you can purchase these designs and give items away as gifts. So what I did was go on my phone, and I pretty much went to Googled Hello Kitty just to kind of see what the features are. And as you can see, it's a bunch of designs that came up, or images that came up, and I'm pretty much going to go for that one, that look for that one. So I've already changed the thread color, I've already changed the bobbin, and we are ready to go. The only thing I need to do is put the takedown lever down and press the green button, and it will begin filling in the nose. Okay, so the machine is going toward completing this embroidery design. Is just pretty much embroidering the whiskers on this Hello Kitty face, and then we will take it off the machine, and we will use the embroidery scissors to cut all those strands there. And if this was a real item, a real garment, or a real t-shirt or tote or something, your project would be complete. So we are about done with this embroidery design. It has finished completing all the whiskers of this Hello Kitty embroidery file. And now I'm going to take the embroidery hoop off of the machine, and I'm going to use the embroidery scissors to clip all these loose strands or these loose threads there, just to clean it up a bit. And if this was a real project, your project would be complete at this point. So here are two samples of what you can do with this embroidery machine. Both designs are pre-made and they were bought. Okay, so you can just Google embroidery designs for the Brother PE 770, and loads of websites will come up, but you want to not use copywritten designs, in my opinion, because you can get into trouble unless you are purchasing them and giving them as gifts to let's say you're making something for your daughter or something. I believe that that's okay, but you want to check. Also, this Brother PE 770 is a personal embroidery machine. So that is one of the reasons why with the Hello Kitty design, I had to stop, change the bobbin, change the thread. With the commercial machine, you don't have to do that, but also commercial machine, it's like, you know, almost 10 times the amount of a personal embroidery machine. So we're talking like the cost of a car for a commercial machine. So if you are just starting out and you just want to make gifts and you're thinking about starting an embroidery business but you're not sure, why make that investment? You can start off with a machine like this, the PE 770. It is a good beginner's machine, and you can do things on it that you will find pleasing. So once again, with this machine, you also are getting an additional hoop and a smaller hoop size as well. And you're also getting some extras, some needles, and embroidery, a pair of scissors that are sharp and they are new. I have used them for this video, but I don't use them in my embroidery studio because I have literally about 100 pairs of embroidery scissors. So I am giving you some extras, and if you would like to purchase this embroidery machine, you can call me toll free at my studio, toll free at 1-877-553-5400.